How are you?
I'm all right. Okay. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Your story prompted so many random questions from people.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when you, do you know when I first, I'd read an article that you'd done, and when I looked at it, and I'm like, so this girl's graduated with a law degree, and she's now gaming and streaming online. And when you say it out loud, you're like,
It doesn't sound right. No.
I mean, it sounds very bold, decision wise. What made you want to do law in the first place? Let's go back to that part first. Why law?
That's an interesting one because I was one of those people that was at school that didn't really know what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I always had more of a passion for art and kind of graphic design, but for whatever reason ended up not going down that route. Took a year out of school after that, a year out of just education after I finished school, and worked, and I ended up having, this is a really awkward story, but I ended up having issues with an employer.
Right.
But I was only 17,
Okay.
16, 17. So I was, I went home and I was like, just went straight to Google. I was like, what are my rights as an employee? And I just went back in. I was like, actually, I think you'll find. But I found that so interesting. I was like, I love the fact that we have rights. Like, you know, I was like, and I could go in there, even as like a young girl, going up to my boss, being like, well, actually, I think you'll find I'm due 15 minutes on my break. So I just love that. So that's how I ended up like going, oh, I wonder what else is under the law that you're at, like we are due that none of us know about. And then, well, ended up applying for law. Didn't actually think I would get in.
Right.
Because at school, I did art, I did computing. I didn't do the usual of like history, modern studies kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll actually get in. But I ended up managing to get accepted to a few and ended up at Strathclyde, and then I stuck it out. It's interesting, but yeah, I never actually think I knew I wanted to do it. Definitely just fell on my lap in a weird way.
And it's a tough course as well to do.
Yeah, well, I'm not even gonna lie. First semester, I wanted to drop out.
Right.
I was like, just at least try the first year. So I just kept pushing. I was like, try the first year, okay, it's fine, because you'll get into it. And then did the first year, and I was like, I'm still not feeling it. And I went to second year, and I'm going, still want to drop out. And like, just keep trying, like, you know, because there's other, because the way it went was every semester you got a new class, like there was new classes. So it was only that semester that you had the classes that you were doing.
Okay.
So I'm going, maybe you'll like the classes in the next semester. So I just kept trying it. Finished the second year, I'm still like not interested. And I'm going, you may as well finish it though. Now you're halfway there, but actually the third year I get a degree, but I didn't get my honours. So I was like, you might as well just finish your third year, then you can say you've got a law degree, because that's pretty cool to say. So that's what kept me going. And then I got into third year, but that was when I actually got to pick what classes I wanted to do. And then I was like, oh, I actually have an interest in these ones. So I can now, I got to pick employment law, and I was like, oh, see, this is what I wanted, because the initial stuff was the first 2 years was kind of like history and all that, and I'm going, I wasn't interested. Started picking what I wanted to do, found an interest, and I'm like, well, I might as well do fourth year, because I actually like what I'm doing now. I obviously did fourth year, and then lockdown hit.
Right, okay.
So I've managed to finish fourth year when lockdown hit. So I've got my dissertation and all my exams are during lockdown, which was horrible, because you finish all that and then you've got no graduation, which is what you've been waiting for 4 years. And I had no intention after that of going back.
Right.
But lockdown hit, and I had a plan that I was going to go travel. Can't travel now. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm going, well, you're stuck at home anyways. So I went back for another year, did my postgrad, my diploma, and well, it was obviously because I was at home, it made sense to do, but it was during that I ended up starting streaming. So that's kind of how it goes about. And
did streaming ever enter your mind at the kind of latter stages, or was it just purely through COVID that it kind of...
Just purely, like, I knew people did this, but like kind of the extent of it, I had no clue that it was a thing. It was actually, so I used to game when I was younger, but I kind of dropped it as I grew up, but it was over lockdown. I think a lot of people went back to things that they used to do to pass time. So I ended up taking my little brother's PlayStation off him. He had a PC. Okay, I didn't like, I didn't leave him with nothing. So I ended up playing that and picking up and just started playing it during summer, and then I ended up randomly in a game with some guys, like just randomly put with them, and they were like, "Oh, we watch a streamer online, like you should join in." So I ended up watching this guy and got involved, and then just kind of being part of his community, like playing with other people, and that's how it came about. And then they were all like, "Oh, you should really give it a shot," and I palmed it off for ages. Like, it's not me, I couldn't do it. It's no. And then after a couple of months, I started thinking about, like, well, we're in lockdown. What have we got to lose? So I ended up, I think after a couple months, I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I've already got all these people that are like, I'm friends with doing it. And that's what I thought it was going to stop at.
Yeah, just like a community.
Yeah. Started it about end of January. God, I don't know what year that would have been, but whenever that was. And well, yeah, and that's how it started. So I'd go to uni during the day, finish my uni, go live, and that was how my days went every day. And that's how it started.
2 jobs.
It was, but you were stuck at home anyways. Like, I didn't have anything else to do, so I actually felt really good because I wasn't sitting not knowing what to do. I managed to start my stream and get a degree while I was in lockdown. I mean, that's quite like...
Yeah, that is pretty... I think I managed to complete 2 box sets. So it's pretty impressive when you look at it that way.
Yeah, I was like, at least I was productive.
100%.
No.
What was the point for you? Obviously, you had started it and you were kind of testing the water. What was the point for you when you thought, well, I could do this rather than...
I feel like I'm still not at that point.
Okay.
I always said that I wanted to take a year out to travel. So when it came about that I'd finished the last degree that I needed to be a solicitor, I was like, I still wanted to take a year out, but the problem was I still couldn't travel because COVID was still very heavy. So I decided, I was like, oh, well, I'll give this a year, you know, let's just do this full time for a year, see what happens. Well, it's been just over a year since I said that. And obviously I can do this full time, like I can, and I'll be very happy if I could do this for a long time to pay the bills, and I want it to keep going. But I also do have this doubt in my mind where I'm going, you've got a full degree, like you could have a full on career that lasts, like, is, you know, sure to last for life. Like, this is obviously a risk. So I'm going, I think I could do it, but how long for? What's next? Like, what happens if it does fall apart? Like, there is a lot of doubt still. But what I know myself, I'm going, I'll never have another chance to do it again. So why not give it a shot now? I can always go back to law when I need to. I could go back to anything when I need to, because I've got a degree, so I can get a graduate job at any point. Or do something else. So I was like, I'm only gonna have one chance to do this. So I was like, I'll commit to it and see what comes of it. So that's kind of how I'm going about it. But I'm always aware that it doesn't mean it's forever.
How was the family reaction? Because it is quite an unknown career as such to older generations, shall we say. I think if you were to go back and, like, if I was to tell my mum or dad I was going to be a streamer or a gamer, that conversation would end inside 20 seconds.
Pretty much. It's funny because I actually think they're more proud of what I do now than if I would have just followed that path down law.
Right.
Because I think what they see is a different Jade. They see someone who is passionate about what they're doing. They see me happy and I'm striving for it. And whereas, like, before I was just kind of plodding along and trying to just get by because that's what I thought I had to do. So I think they would have questioned it if I couldn't cope financially from it. But I think because I can pay my bills, I'm paying for myself, I'm managing to be independent while doing it. They're like, you go, girl. You do that. You can. Even my grandparents are like, okay, fair enough. So it's weird because you would, like, I think everybody expects it to be like, how would your parents just let you drop law for gaming? But I'm going, when I think people only doubt it when you have no proof that it works. So if I'm sitting there going, well, I can pay my bills while I'm doing it, I'm not working whatever hours I would have been doing as a trainee in a legal firm, I'm making the same money as I would have been. I was like, how can you doubt it? I'm happier. So I think when you put it way up, like, they couldn't really, they had nothing but a positive reaction, because I think they were more impressed at it actually, how it go, like how much you can kind of make from what you do.
Yeah, I suppose it's tangible, isn't it? Because rather than, you're not just sitting there kind of doing it and nothing's coming in the way, you're actually able to say, well, I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah.
So there is actual money coming in. How does the whole, I'm fascinated by this, how does the whole monetizing side of it work from your point of view?
There's a lot of ways to go about it. My main kind of source is from support from viewers. So it's mostly from people who subscribe to watch and stuff like that. Being on Facebook, ad revenue is a big thing as well. So obviously adverts, they watch it, you get your ad rev. So that's a big thing. You can also, you can have opportunities from brands, just, they can sponsor you and stuff like that. But that's majority from your stream. That's where you're getting all. It's mostly from support from people that are watching. But there's like so many other ways you can like go down. That's just how at this point in time, that's where like my main source is from, from the people that watch.
And was it daunting for you? So I've watched a couple of streamers on YouTube and they're so confident when they're talking through what they're doing, and they're obviously, they've got such a massive reach. Are you aware of that when you're just kind of sitting gaming, or do you try and focus on that not being there, or how do you cope with that side of it?
Well, I didn't like it at first. I don't think I ever worried about how many were watching. But I actually got to a point where I just turned my viewer count off.
Right.
So I actually never know how many people are watching, because it became such a horrible situation where I was reacting to how many people were watching. It wasn't a case of like I was nervous that there's loads of watching, but I felt like my energy levels depended on how many were watching. Because if there was like only a few, I'd like be like, oh, there's only a few watching, I can can chill out a bit more, and I didn't really care. So I actually got to a point where I turned my viewer count off. There could be nobody watching, but I've still got the same what I would do anyways if there was thousands watching. So that's how I go. I've just left it. I don't want to know how many people are watching at a time, because you also can't change it either. There's nothing I can do while I'm live to change that number. So I was like, I don't need to know that number while I'm live. I can find out after.
And does it bother you? Like if you come off and say you've had a day where X amount of watched you, and you've had other days where it's so much more than that, do you get up or down with that, or are you pretty kind of consistent?
No, Facebook as a platform is very bad for being inconsistent. But I don't think there's any creator on that platform that has accepted that. And it is very, very difficult not to take it personally. It's probably, I think the inconsistency for me is the hardest part of the job, because there's nothing, it doesn't matter most of the time what you do. You can put 100% effort in, but on a platform like Facebook, if the algorithm doesn't like you that day, it doesn't matter. And that's why I ended up turning the viewer count off, because I'm going, if I'm having a bad day viewers wise, I'm like, I don't want that to impact it, because if you have a bad day viewer wise, your mood drops more, it just it causes more problems. So if I come off and if I see the numbers are lower, I'm getting better at it. I've kind of started to accept, I'm going, if there was nothing you could have done to change it, then it wasn't your fault. So I've kind of started to learn, but obviously I'm very new to this industry, very, very new. So it's definitely a learning curve, because I've always been it's everything I've ever done is always, you work hard, you perform, you get the result. This isn't the case. And it's very hard to get your mind around that. Doesn't matter how hard you work, doesn't matter how good you think you are, doesn't matter how much you perform. That's still such a massive element of luck in it. And you have to accept that. That was the hardest thing that I could deal with. And getting my head round, because there's just that. It doesn't matter, like that's also like a financial point of view as well. Like I don't know how much money I'll make that day. I don't know how much money I'll make that week, that month, because that's based around who's watching when, and it's just all the numbers are probably the hardest thing to deal with. I don't know when I'll be able to cope with it, or if that's always just a thing that all content creators will always worry about, which I think it probably is.
So hard because it's not in your control with the whole algorithm thing. And when you Google these things, you get about 900 different theories on what the algorithm is, so you're no closer to...
We have contact with the people that deal with it. They don't even know. We literally have contacts and we ask them questions and they tell us stuff, and I'm going, that's not the case. I can assure you, you're wrong.
That is frustrating.
And it changes all the time, because I think you can kind of work out, and you can see it quite a lot in what I do, is you can kind of work it out and you can see a pattern in things. So you'll work with that and you'll figure out what best, and you'll see, and then all of a sudden that stops working and you're going, why is that stop working now? Like what now? And so you're constantly having to try and figure out again and again, because it used to be a case of the more you post, the more algorithm you get.
Right.
Then it became you're saturating your algorithm by posting too much, because not everybody can see every post. So then it's like, well, okay, but I want to post everything, but I can't post everything. So now you've got to make sure, then it's like, because it went from doesn't matter quality, post as many times as you can every day, that's what you're meant to do. Then it's like, no, quality matters. Only post things of good quality, even like skip a day if you have to. And it's going like, it's constantly changing.
Yeah. So I think all the socials are the same though, because even when you look at Instagram and YouTube and TikTok to an extent as well, you can post maybe 3 Mondays in a row at the same time, and the first 2 you'll get like 800,000 views, and the third one you'll get 2,000, and you're like,
it just doesn't make sense.
What's the difference? And I have contacted people and they give you like a long-winded answer, and you're like, that doesn't tell me anything at all about what I need to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like genuinely, you can put what's really frustrating is often the time when I feel like content's good and never goes anywhere, and then it's always the ones that you don't expect to go anywhere go like miles, and I'm going, what? Like that doesn't even make any sense. Like that doesn't make how am I meant to figure anything from that? Because I'm going like, it's always the ones where I'm like, I don't have anything to post today, okay, we'll chuck that one out, and then it's going, oh, that one gets the views. Really?
It's crazy.
It's just it doesn't make sense, and that's always the thing that's so difficult to work with.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because obviously a big thing will be keeping your account relevant, keeping your followers engaged, but how hard is that when you're then fighting against when to post, what to post, how often to post? It must be difficult.
Yeah, I think even the people that are in the industry, I don't think everybody realizes just how calculated it actually has to be.
Yeah.
You can't, so like I try and figure out patterns all the time, but it's so hard because sometimes I swear it's random.
Yeah.
But I try and be as consistent as possible. So I stream at 1 p.m. every time I go live. So even if the algorithm's not nice, people know when I'm live because I'm live 1 p.m. So that's what I do. But other people will randomly stream at random times of the day. And what I've found is if I don't go live at 1 p.m. and I go live at a random time, I get more algorithm, because it's kind of like, oh, that's new. And it's like, oh, you're getting loads of clicks at this time, so that must be good content. But it's really just because I've changed the time. So it's that, like, it's a weird thing, but I'm like, I can't do anything about that. So I'm going, I want to be consistent with it that works for me. But then, well, I'm going, there's results in not being consistent. So then I'm going, well, how do I work it? I've forgotten what your question was now, because I went down like a little path.
So keeping it, how do you keep your followers engaged?
Yeah.
Because you Warzone exclusively?
I'm not fully Warzone exclusive. Right. Like I do, Warzone's like my main, but then I've played things like Fall Guys, Cooking Simulator, like random things, because playing Warzone is a stress. Yeah. It's not great. So I do need, sometimes I need to do it. But yeah, I make sure if I can, to be as consistent as possible what I do, so that people know where to find me and when to find me. Does it always work? Not quite, but I always try. And then obviously there's other things I can put out there, and just the pictures are massive on Facebook and Instagram. So people just love to see a bit of a different side of you than just you sitting on stream.
Yeah.
Things like that. But
They want to know you as well, don't they?
Yeah. You want to, obviously, I like being quite personal with everybody anyways, so
Yeah.
that they have someone that they know.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it is tough. Like I don't feel like there's a secret formula no
Yeah.
matter what it
Mhm.
is. I don't even like the best of the best, like they can still like be like they can struggle with
Yeah.
trying to get people engaged and all that stuff. It's just I do unfortunately believe that you just have to have luck on your side sometimes.
Definitely. How often do you do it? What's your kind of working hours?
So I started treating it more like a job.
Mhm.
So I do 5 days a week.
Right.
But I take Friday and Saturday off.
Okay.
Rather than obviously Saturday, Sunday, purely because, I felt like content was kind of viewed more on a Sunday.
Mhm.
I felt
Yeah.
like because people have nothing to do on Sunday,
Yeah.
that's when they're going to watch.
Mhm.
So I decided to swap it over. And I just I don't have a set hours. I feel like that didn't work for me. I always try and do like a minimum of 3 hours but I'll just go if I'm in a good mood and it's going well, I'll keep going. I could be there for 8, 9, it doesn't matter, So, but most of the time you're looking around 5.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an average, and that's just kind of So other than Sunday's the only awkward one. I go live in the evening,
Mhm.
but Monday through Thursday I'm live 1 p.m. and I'll just see how it goes, and that's how I go about it.
Which is pretty intense because I play Warzone, and even if you play it for an hour or two, you can lose your mind.
Yeah.
So if you're doing it for like 5 hours, how do you keep yourself kind of sane? Because you can just get sucked into that.
Yeah, I think it is difficult because you want to be enjoying it the full time, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's not the case. Obviously, if you play with other people, it does help. Like they can keep, the vibe going.
Yeah.
But if it does get to a stage where the game is too much, there is other ways of going around your content. I mean, you can swap game,
Yeah.
and that's an option. But one of the big ones is just sitting spectating other people playing.
Yeah.
You see some things on that game, I swear.
Yeah.
There's people like, obviously not everybody's knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, or people just like to do weird stuff. So that you can just sit there and spectate and commentate. So that takes you away from playing for a bit. There is ways to go about it, but yeah, that game is hard to play for a long time sometimes.
Yes. And do you spend a lot of time going through stuff for like clips and things like that as well? Does that take up a big percentage of your time?
Yeah, I think there's this expectation for you to juggle every platform at once.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult because how are you meant to keep everything of a good quality if you're doing every platform at once? But I think thankfully, I don't know how much I like it, but I do like it. Thankfully, shorts are like the most popular content at the moment, which is the easiest content to make. So like TikToks aren't really difficult to make.
Yeah.
Facebook clips are not, they're called reels. They're not difficult. YouTube shorts, whatever.
Mhm.
So thankfully that's what's the content you're meant to be churning out at the moment, and a 30-second clip does not take long. But when it was like before and it was like long 3-minute videos, that was difficult, and trying to get content that was 3 minutes long was quite hard.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like the amount of clips you can get that are funny or decent or just terrible, like it's just all these things can be clips now, and it's 20-30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's for like I could get like a good handful every stream. And then like obviously you just edit them, and shorts do not take that long to edit.
Yeah.
So it used to be quite difficult to do, but at the moment with how like content's going about, it's actually not too difficult. And I have it so that I have a button that just, if something happens, I press the button and it clips that section. So I've already got the clips, so I don't have to go back through the stream for hours.
Okay,
and
which saves a
find
lot of time.
Yeah, so I've got the clips, so I need to edit them, and that's it. So it used to be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
But posting a couple of shorts is actually so much easier.
And even with that as well though, you probably have that same scenario. I find that with the pod on, I'll put some clips on and I'm like, I can't believe that's not been viewed loads more.
Yeah.
And then I'll put a random one on and people lose their mind, and I'm like, I cannot believe that's
the thing. Like, you can be like, that's a really good clip. I can't wait to post that, and it gets nothing. You're like, okay.
But it makes you doubt yourself.
It does, and that's the thing. Like, that's what the problem is. That obviously there's watch time, but then sometimes there's a clip that's, if it's just not that great, so many people will comment on it because people love to troll.
Yeah.
So if you've got one of those, it's great because that gets pushed out, even though it's not your best content. It gets pushed out because they're all wanting to be nasty on it. So you're like, all right. And it's like, the thing is, one of my biggest ever TikToks or reel, like I posted it on all platforms, and it has millions of views. Was a TikTok I sat, and it must have been about midnight. Sat in my flat and I saw this TikTok with someone else's, and he's like basically trying to pronounce words in English.
Right. And
he's trying to obviously help people like who don't speak English, right? But I thought it was so funny because it had words like murderer and, squirrel in it. And I'm going, right. So I, at the time, had a boyfriend who was English,
right,
and he loves that. So I ended up taking just a video of me saying those words. Like, that's all I did. But obviously, because I was doing it on TikTok, it posts it.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I was going to delete it straight after because I'm going, it wasn't meant to be a TikTok. It's just me wanting to like do the duet so I could send it to him. And I did it. And it's my most popular video to date. And I'm going, it wasn't even meant to be a thing. It doesn't make sense. Genuinely, I think it's on 4 or 5 million on TikTok, 3-4 million on Facebook. And I'm just going, that wasn't even meant to be my content.
I suppose, but it brings people to your page.
Well, yeah, it does.
Which is good.
I'm grateful for it, but it just shows like I didn't do anything there, and that's like I didn't put any effort into that, and it wasn't meant to even be a thing. And I'm going, that's when I'm going. I'm putting so much effort into editing all this stuff for TikTok, and that's what you choose. It's brutal sometimes.
What do you think is the toughest part of the job? Because it's, from the outside looking in, it seems like a really saturated market now because so many people are trying to do it. But from you being in that industry, what do you find are the kind of tough parts of it? I
think obviously, despite just the general content creation issues of like trying to deal with numbers and your self-esteem and your mental around that is difficult. But I think based on more specifically what I do, being a woman in that industry is so hard because there's so many people who still, especially a game like Call of Duty, so many people still don't think you belong there.
And do you get people saying that to you, like even when you're on the game and things like that?
All the time. The amount of people, like, I've stopped playing with just random people on the game because if I'd play with them and I'd speak and I'd get horrible being like, oh, it's a girl, like, get back to the kitchen and all that rubbish. But obviously the bit more explicit. But yeah, I've had all that. So I stopped playing with randoms for that reason, but it doesn't stop them coming in my chat. You still get all that rubbish. Still get all that comments on my videos just saying like, oh, where's your man? Why has he not got you under control? Like, you shouldn't be playing games. All that. It's ridiculous. Jeez. I can't tell if they're serious either. I'm going, are you trolling? Like,
because they'll just try to reel you in.
Yeah. It's but I do get all that. And even, it's not even just that. I feel like those kind of comments I actually don't really care about too much. It's trying to gain respect from people who watch content anyways, or that kind of content, because naturally a lot of people would rather watch guys do it. Because they're like guy pals, like they're kind of banter, whatever, or they just respect guys playing the game more. It's just it happens. So another problem I've got is it's quite a lot of, I'm not taking anything away from them. There's a lot of women who sexualize their content. And obviously have their other platforms that they promote, but they're gamers and they go into that fetish. So that kind of already dampens what I do, because it's expected that the girls that do it are doing it for the fetish, not because they want to be treated like any guy that was doing it. Yeah, you're actually just doing it for the gaming. Yeah. So it's really hard to kind of just gain respect in general. Like, I feel like with a guy, it's kind of like a blank slate. If you're good, you're funny or whatever, that's how you're going to be judged. Where I feel like the bar you have to is set a wee bit higher for a girl going into it because if you don't already obviously have a lot showing, then it's going, well, what is it you're in or after? You can't like, girls aren't good at the game. You have to prove that you're actually all right at the game, and then you've got to prove that you actually have some sort of personality. Like, I feel like you don't get given the benefit of the doubt, which is very hard to overcome because a lot of the time people don't give you a long time to make an impression, especially on social media platforms like Facebook and stuff. You've got what, the 5 seconds that they click on there to make an impression. If they're at the wrong time, or like, it's not always a 5-hour stream's not always going to be going. So I think like just being in that industry as a woman, it's really hard to make that impression because the bar is just higher to reach for you to be respected, for people to hang around and watch. Do
you find it easier the longer you're in the industry, or is it still got a way to go?
I feel like I've only really scratched the surface. I think I've done a lot for people in the industry to respect what I do. But I still find that it's hard to get the viewers to all, because there's millions of people. So it is hard to get. I want to say that it's working and I'm getting there, but I feel like it's still every day there's going to be someone in there. So
you must get it as well, though, if you actually win a game and you get the comms, etc. You must get people that lose their minds. Yeah,
well, people don't like losing to a girl in those games sometimes. No.
If they already feel like that, that's just going to...
Yeah. But the thing is, I think like in natural, like even you saying that, right? And it's just assumed that people don't like losing to a girl in that game because you shouldn't lose to a girl in that game.
Yeah.
But why? Why is that a thing? Because realistically, why? What difference? I got the same fucking 10 fingers as you.
You're putting in more time than most people who play that game. Yeah. But then they'll come on and have that expectation of, well, I should have beaten you.
Yeah.
Why?
It's like, why though? Because I keep asking people, they come in my stream and they want to troll, and I'm going, but give me one reason why a girl can't be as good as a guy. Yeah. Genuinely, like what? Like I understand it when it comes to sports and stuff like that, but I'm going with gaming. Give me one reason other than opportunities and the fact that we maybe haven't played all our lives.
Yeah.
It's not really any disadvantage. So
no, considering with that game as well, it only obviously came out in that Warzone platform like the start of COVID, so everybody's had the same amount of time to go in, and it changes constantly with updates, etc. So you do have a blank canvas to go in and
you can just
and
go
pick
in
it
and
up.
play it.
But people have that expectation of why don't I win at this? There is just that, and obviously I don't think I've met anyone that plays that game that's been a good loser. To be fair, there's always a bit of mayhem.
I think that's a Call of Duty thing.
Yeah.
I think we've always been a very toxic community in that game, and it's surprising that now is actually the least toxic we've ever been. It's always been horrible, but actually like the first battle royale of it has been less toxic than any of the multiplayer has ever been, so it's actually not too bad, because you always get that I don't know if you've seen it, but if you say anything and if you try and defend yourself and be like, that's bang out of order, they'll be like, yeah, well, you never would have lasted in the Modern Warfare lobbies. Like, that's always what they say. And I'm going, well, I was there, actually. I remember. I did last. But I was always the top of the leaderboard, and I was always winding you guys up, so I didn't mind.
But it's that whole thing where it's like people on social media that troll, they just want a bite. Yeah. They just want something to kind of...
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Sometimes I'll go along with it because I know they'll bite.
Yeah.
And I'm going, get a bit of engagement out of you. You know, that's good for my algorithm. And also other people in the chat love winding up the trolls. So they do get a bit of abuse sometimes. And then there's other times where I'm like, if I can't be bothered, I just get rid of them. I ignore them.
Yeah.
So it does depend, but I really do enjoy winding them up back.
Got to put this out now, and I'll just got to see it as a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you can bring it on. I don't mind. I grew up with 3 brothers, so I'm used to winding them up back, you know.
Yeah, I suppose.
It'll take you a while.
Have you had any advice from anyone within that community that's kind of helped you?
I've had a lot of creators help me in some ways, but the problem is there's no right or wrong way in doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of wrong ways, I think, obviously, but there's not really a right way of doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of the advice I've ever had has came from guys in the industry. And if I put what they're doing and I try and like, if I just tried to copy and paste that, it would not work for me.
Right. Okay.
And that's what I've figured out. Like, I have had advice where it's just like waiting to try and post content or things like that, like just kind of little things. I've not had anything major that's kind of changed how I go about it, because I had to learn what works for me, and I think everybody has to do that. And because that's my advice to people is, it's not a one size fits all, and it never will be. Because no matter what you like, you can do the exact same thing as someone and you'll still have a different result, and that's just how the internet works. So I'm going, you have to figure out what works for you, because even your page, like you can set up your page the exact same way as you've set up someone else's on Facebook, but one will have more algorithm than the other one day, and one will have more the next day. There's just there's nothing that fits. So the only, like, I ended up just having to figure out everything on my own, and like any advice I've got, it hasn't really fit. It has been a case of trying to figure out each day on your go. Like there's no like tutorial, there's no like, you know,
there's no guidebook, is there?
You literally have to just, obviously setting up the stream, I got a lot like kind of help technically from other people, but when it comes to actually what you do, there's not really any advice that I could pinpoint that's been changed what I do.
Which is hard, isn't it? Because you're going into normally when you go into an industry, there is something that someone can say to you, oh, this would be a great way of doing this, but by going into that gaming world, there isn't really a set plan, because as you said, what works for you might not work for someone else, because I suppose although you're both playing the same game, you probably get very different followers based on your own personalities.
100%. Like that's the thing, there's your personality, unfortunately, there's your looks, there's do
you think that's a judgment call that people would make for like gaming and things?
100%. Like people, I think if you're really good at the game, your looks will never matter. Like if you're an actual pro and you've got proof and you're winning tournaments, that's not going to be the case. But in a general like kind of content creation, people do take that into account. But it's not always a case of the better looking one is going to be the one that gets the most views. Because oftentimes people love something unique. And it's a case of even just someone wearing a funky hat gets more clicks than you just sitting there, you know? So
got you.
Appearance does make a massive difference. I think girls are judged a bit more on the appearance. Like obviously, unfortunately, I think if it was a girl that was deemed, you know, less attractive, she might sit with less views or take longer to gain views than someone that maybe had a nice thumbnail and you know, like that's what's going to get clicked on. So it is clickbait at its finest. Appearance matters.
But is that where you find that issue when you were saying earlier about there are some people that then sexualize their profile, and that obviously attracts a different type of follower, but they're looking at the numbers coming in rather than the audience?
Well, that's the thing. If you did have a slightly more, can't really think of the word, but if you went out there and you know you're a bit more open with your thumbnail, people are going to click on it. So and clicks do matter. So that has been a case of, especially on things like Facebook, where that matters most. If you've got a thumbnail and people see what they like, they're going to click on it. But I think there always was this thought that they're taking away from other people's views. And I'm going, but the people clicking on that aren't there for the game anyways. So if that's what they're clicking for, then they're not taking away from anybody.
No.
They are targeting a different market.
Well, they're just wanting the numbers, aren't they, from that demographic?
So they obviously take that and they take it. They obviously transfer it to other places as well. So when it comes to actually trying to get people in there for the game, I think being like, I get a lot of people obviously click and see a woman, and I get a lot of people coming in being like, where's your OnlyFans? Like, where's the link to your OnlyFans all the time?
Does that annoy you?
A little bit, yeah. Because it's just assumed that I'm going to have one.
You're not just doing this because it's your job.
Yeah. I want to play the game and I want to do that. All the time people click on it, see a girl playing a game, and they're like, where's the link to the OnlyFans? And I'm going, like, what? Like, how is this like the first question that people always ask?
That would be
but no one's going to click on the guys and ask that, or very, very few.
Yeah.
So that's how I know, like, there's a massive difference between who's clicking on mine and who's clicking on theirs. So already, like, that skews numbers.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, like, they would maybe argue in my favor. I think otherwise, because they then, for one reason, don't get what they want, they're back out.
Yeah.
Doesn't really help the situation, which comes back to, they can tell, I could be like, oh, my average watch time's down, it's really low, like, I don't know what to do about my average watch time, how do I get that up? They can sit there being like, make sure you're always talking, make sure you blah blah, and I'm going, there's actually nothing I can do, because the amount of people that are clicking on it because it's a girl playing, hoping to find the OnlyFans, clicking back off.
Yeah, you can't control that.
I can't do that. I can't do anything about it. So that's like, that's something I couldn't get advice from someone who's not in that position. Maybe ask another female that has that problem. They'd maybe understand it. But like, there's so many variables. Like I said, like personality, how you look, how your content is in general. Like, are you good at the game? Or are you just like, do you have a laugh? Are you more serious?
Yeah.
Like, what country you're from, what accent you've got. Have you got a nice voice or not a nice voice? You know, like, that is a big thing. Some people like your voice, some people don't like your voice. Like, what language you speak. Like, there's just so many variables to everything. I have people come in who just only speak Spanish, like, I don't speak English, and I'm going, well, I can't do anything about that. Like, I only speak English. And I have people who are like, don't understand me because my accent. So I can't, they're not going to watch. Or people that love the accent and watch because of the accent, because a lot of people obviously watch and just listen.
Yeah, pick up.
And then there's also people who, my voice is a big point of contention, because I feel like it's a bit like Marmite. I get so many comments who are like, oh my God, I love your voice. Like, can you do audiobooks? Can you do something? Like, can I listen to you somewhere? And then I have other people who are like, oh, you're so whiny. Like, can you stop speaking? And I'm like, what? I was like, just turn it off.
You're just sitting in the middle. Like, I'm just trying to do this.
I was like, can I have more of the nice comments? Like, you can turn it off. Like, just turn the volume down if you don't like my voice, or just go away.
It must be hard though when you're having like a shit day, and one of those comments comes in and you're just like, don't need this.
Yeah, that was something I had to learn.
Yeah.
I think early on, I don't think I'd accepted how many people aren't going to like me.
Yeah.
That was the biggest lesson I ever learned, was not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. That doesn't reflect on you, because you're very used to being around a small number of people, and when someone doesn't like you, you take that personally. Yeah. But when you put that into a bigger field or a bigger scale, so many more people that are not going to like you. Yeah. So I used to take it very personally. Like, what do you mean? Like, why does this person not like watching? Like, why? Like, or I'd see a nasty comment about me and I'm going, what do you? And I couldn't get my head around it at first. I'm going, what's wrong with me? Like, why but there's so many nice comments, but it's just that, like, the nasty ones that you pick up on. And it took me a long time to realize, like, that's not a personal thing, because everybody has preferences. Yeah. And that's okay. And just general, like, every person's gonna have someone that they don't like, that people that don't like you. Like, that's in that industry for sure. You're not the only person that feels that way.
And they don't know you. Yeah. Like, they're just basing it on, as you say, like, they've watched something for 3 minutes and they're like, oh, I don't like this person.
Yeah, you can say one thing and someone will not like you. It's not a true reflection of their, like,
no, it's crazy. Like, it's like if you were to break down TikTok into real life and you had like 4 people sitting here and each of them spoke for 10 seconds and you made a judgment call based on that, people would be like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. But online, it seems to be acceptable for people to be like, no, I'm just going to hammer that person. Why? Don't know.
I just don't like them.
Yeah, I would find that quite hard too.
Yeah, I think if you're new to it, it's hard. Once you learn, you do grow a thick skin.
Yeah.
You do. I feel like there's still days where comments get me down. Like one day, and I don't know why this one bothered me so much because it didn't make sense why it bothered me that much. And it's very extreme. So it should bother you, but I'm going, this can't be personal. But this guy just comes on my stream and he makes several accounts to keep coming back. So I kept banning him. But he just kept being like, oh, like, get your rat out, like constantly saying like this stuff. And then all of a sudden he would just be like, just go kill yourself. And I took it so personally, but I'd already decided that this guy was out here just to be nasty. But as soon as I read that, I just went,
it's hard to disengage from that.
Yeah, I was like, there's people out there that would like want that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
That was the one, like after that point, I was like, you need to get a thicker skin because you're on the internet and people will go that far to say that stuff. Like there's no limits to these people. So once I kind of learned that, and that is unfortunately like that was the comment to push me to that point. But I'm going, people are out there like happy enough to tell a random person on the internet, a stranger they know nothing about, to go kill themselves. Yeah, you're not the problem.
That's horrendous.
Yeah.
And it's, as much as you condition yourself not to be bothered, you're always going to be bothered when you see things like that because somebody's went and taken the time to write that out to you and you're sitting like,
yeah, like I think since that point, comments haven't bothered me that much. Like either I feel like I have disengaged from them enough where they haven't felt personal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's actually more like when someone's been in the chat a bit and then they say something nasty, I would take a bit more of offense to. But like there was a more recent one, the only one that's ever bothered me since, and it's been months and since that point, was very recently. Some guy went out his way. He was in my chat being nasty and whatnot, and we kind of had a laugh with him, but we were winding him up. He did not like.
Right.
We might have pushed it too far because we ended up banning him. He kept coming back every day, and I'm going, if you don't like me, why do you keep coming back every day? But we just kept, the chat loved it because he just kept winding him up. So I left it until it got to a point where I'm like, right, let's get rid of him now. Had enough of it. And then he goes and he emails me. And it's horrible because he's just like, I won't go into too much detail, but he's just basically like, I've found your address. I'm going to come and kill you. Loads of horrible, like graphic things that he said. And that was the only one that hit me because I'm going, someone even willing to threaten me like that purely because all I did is sit there and play a game online. And that's it. But he had a problem because I was a girl. Like he did not like the fact that I was a girl playing a game. That was his problem, and he went to the extent of sending an email like that. And it's going, how can you possibly blame yourself for that?
No.
Like when it gets that extreme, you're going, the people who are doing what they love on the internet, harming nobody, are not a problem, and you can't take it personally. It's so difficult, and it did get to the extremes for me to accept that that's not personal.
Jeez.
That is them needing therapy.
Yeah, 100%. But then on the other side, I suppose you must get a lot of positive comments from people as well, because
100%.
you probably get a lot of young girls out there who are gaming and probably look at you and think, oh, well, that's somebody that I can relate to. That's somebody I want to follow because you're out there doing it. And as you say, it is a tough industry, but they have you as a role model doing that. So you must have a lot of good feedback in that sense.
That's what I wanted to be. Like, I wanted someone out there, because when I'm looking at it and I'm trying to find someone that I, found to be my inspiration or my role model in this industry, I was kind of struggling to find enough. And I'm going, I want to be able to give that to somebody. And so that's kind of what I tried to do. I was like, no matter what I know, like there's a cheap way of getting somewhere fast, I'm not going to take it. I like kind of things like that. I didn't want to sexualize myself out. That is my choice. I don't want to do that. And I was like, but I also I want to set a good example that you can be in a male dominated industry and be successful in it without sexualizing yourself. Because that's always the thought, that the successful women in the gaming industry are the ones that do that. I was like, I want to be one of the people that proves that that's not the case. And it's not even just that. I actually have had so many nice messages, not even I've had them from women, but I've actually had so many nice messages from guys who are just saying like, who some of them started streaming because of me. They're like, just me. I don't know how I'm an inspiration. Like sometimes I'm like, what? But things like that are just them being like, thanking me for having a space that they feel comfortable in, or feeling part of something, part of the community. Like there's so many nice comments, or people's kids as well. Like if they're watching, I've had like, oh, my kid really enjoys watching you, and they're like really want to grow up and be a streamer. So I was like, I'd wrote like a postcard to one of them to give to them to write, be like, if you want to be a streamer, like you can do it, like whatever, like that.
That's
kind of
amazing,
thing. And it's going, this is all just me sitting playing games at home.
Yeah.
Like it's like, what? But no, that things like that, like knowing you can, people have like messaged me saying that I've given them or somewhere that they feel comfortable in, like a space out of like a really tough life that they're living, and how many people say that I've helped their mental health or things like that, and I'm going, this is why it's worth it. Like I can sit there and I don't care. Like I can put up with the horrible stuff. Because this is what the difference it's making. It's not a case of I'm just sitting there and seeing it as all take. Like people actually do gain like from streamers. Like they actually take a lot from the content that people make, and there's a reason it's so popular, because people take a lot from it. Like it does make a massive difference to a lot of people's lives.
Escapism for a lot of people.
Literally, yeah.
Who do you watch from obviously you're in that industry, but is there people out there that you love watching when you're not gaming? Because there is so many.
There's a lot. It's really hard because I feel like it's hard to watch now from a entertainment point of view. I really struggle to not watch and like kind of feel like, oh, that's quite a good idea, or you know, like you kind of watch to learn rather than, you know,
just enjoy it.
So I do struggle with that. Unless I can watch it, I kind of tend to watch people that I play with or that I talk to more, so I can have a bit of banter with them. So that's normally what I do. So it's pretty much like anybody that I play with regularly, you'll find me in their stream, like winding them up at some point. That's normally what I do. But I don't think I actually get a lot of time to watch. So like the last thing I want to do after playing the game for so long and then editing or anything like that, is watch it.
You know, I suppose if you're doing something for 40 hours, you're not going to spend your free time watching the thing that you've been doing for 40 hours. I do enjoy like that's why I end up with watching people that I know, because I like chatting to them, but it's not necessarily I'm watching the game. It's a social aspect.
So that's kind of, I don't get much out of the actual like gaming, like Warzone streams from like much of an entertainment perspective. It's just basically like if you do something for a job, it's not really that fun anymore.
100%. I got a few questions in from people. I have weeded out the crazies. So it's just normal questions.
I feel bad for someone who's watched this and their question doesn't get asked and they're going to be like, oh, I was one of the crazies.
No, I think the people that sent the questions will know that they would never have been asked.
All right, okay, that's fine.
One person had said, what do you think has been your high point so far?
Oh, there's so many. It's really hard because I've had high points where I feel like probably the biggest one for me is being on STV, and I think that's always going to be the case, because like that was one of the coolest things to ever be able to do.
How did it come about?
They just emailed me. They emailed me one day. I got the email. Oh, the feeling of that email was incredible. I could not stop smiling. I was sitting there staring in the mirror with like doing my makeup in the morning or hair or whatever, and I just started flicking through my phone, like checking my emails, and I got it. And I swear to God, I'm staring at myself in the mirror with a smile on my face. If anybody saw me, I looked crazy. I could not stop it. And I actually did like a little happy dance. Like I was ecstatic when I read it. I just couldn't believe it. But they genuinely just emailed me and they're like, we really want to do like a bit on gaming. would you mind if we interviewed you, blah, blah, blah. And it went from just being a little interview, and then they were like, actually, we really want to do a bigger part of like gaming in general. And they did like a really big bit on it. And I'm just like, even when they turned up and it was like big cameras, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I feel like this
So
is
surreal.
yeah. And then watching it on the TV, I'm like, that's me. That's probably gonna be one that I hold on to.
Yeah. That's such a big one for when we were talking about earlier about how your family would feel, like stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you can't really argue because I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, I may have gone there a lot, but it's not as exciting. So yeah, that's definitely got to be up there. I think there's loads of things that have just been high points, but I think like from like a success point of view, that just like feels like, you know, that was like a peak for me where I'm going, I must be doing something right.
100%. Someone had asked, do you remember your first win when you were streaming?
When I was streaming?
Yeah. See, this is something that I wondered. See, when you started doing it, obviously when if you're playing Warzone, are you on thinking, I'm just playing this and I'm enjoying it? Or are you on there thinking, I need to get a win out of the way so that I've done it and people can see that I've done it?
I think it actually depends on the day.
Yeah.
Some days, like, even the game, like, depending on the hour sometimes, like, I can have an hour where I'm chatting nonstop and the game's not even really a point of the stream and I'm not really paying attention. And I can have other points where I'm, like, focused up and really trying hard. But I think I used to be more of I really need to, like, get a win here or whatever. Whereas now I feel like I've got more of a balance of it. Just kind of depends on the kind of moods because my mood. There's no one else really there, but like if I know how I feel, like it's really weird how different it is. But some days I'll be terrible. Doesn't matter what I do, and my luck might be off and my aim's off, and I'm just it doesn't matter what I do. My reactions are terrible. Like I'm having a bad day. I know there's no point in trying. So I kind of like the gaming's like more for fun at that point. Okay. You gotta have fun, we'll chat and whatever. That's kind of what we're going for. Maybe you'll get like a good like bit here or there. But if I know I'm having a bad day, I'm in the game. I've accepted that. If I know I'm having a good day though, like I don't even think like you need to try too hard. Like I end up focusing more when I know like I'm having a good day, and I end up the game's more of a focal point than the chat is. It's just really it kind of depends on the day. But
and do you know how long into your session does it take you before you think I'm going to have a shit day today? Like how long does it generally take you?
I feel like not long. I think there's sometimes that we have this we pretend that there's this warm up and you're like, oh, I'm just warming up. But I know like from the first like game or two, if because most of the time it's my reactions are off. That's the problem. Like I just sorry, my phone is going. I don't know if the mic can pick that up. Like I'll know in the first game or two
how it's going to pan out.
Yeah, because I'll know from my reactions. Because you know how we all know like if we're having a groggy day.
Yeah.
So if that's like I know I'm having a groggy day, my brain's not going to react any faster anytime soon. So it's usually as simple as that. I'll know pretty soon, but it doesn't fully write it off because you can still have like a half decent game later on. Yeah. I just know I'm like, today's a day where we're just probably dying a lot. So you've got to prepare for something else.
What about a few people had asked about the concentration side of it, because it is obviously one of those games when you are right in the zone with it, it requires everything because you're kind of listening, you're planning, but how hard is that if you're doing it over a prolonged period of time, day after day?
Definitely tougher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I think in general, streaming was more exhausting than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Because you are focused for a long time And not even just that, like you're talking all the time through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually do find it quite exhausting. The concentration wise, if it gets, I don't know, like there is some days where I can tell my concentration's off and I'll be like trying to focus, but it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it can go like that. I think this is why I decided to start treating it as a job.
Yeah.
And making sure that I had a schedule and I had days off.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first started, I was doing it 7 days a week. And I was only taking a day off when I fancied it because I was constant.
That's pretty hardcore.
Obviously, that's during lockdown. So that was different. Yeah. But I was doing it constantly. And then I tried to keep that going. And I was like, oh, we'll take a day off a week, do 6 days. And I was going, right, now I can feel it. I was like, you don't have the energy to do it.
Yeah.
So do 5 days. I was like, some people can do it, but I just personally, I don't have that. So I do find like I need to have the right rest to be able to concentrate for the periods of time that I do, for like the days that I do. And if I'm having a bad day, then, and it's a case of when it gets to then, I will finish my stream if I don't feel like I can do it anymore. I will, if I feel myself, this isn't happening, like I will finish my stream. I don't keep going if I know I'm not, like it's going to be awful. Because, well, I don't gain anything from that.
Yeah, you're not going to feel better, are you, the more it goes? So
I do I would normally end my stream or change game. So that's kind of, but it is exhausting. Yeah. And I think that was trying to explain it to people, because a lot of people that I speak to, they're like, oh, that's really cool. That must be such an easy job. And I'm going, I would think that too. And I wish that was true. Like I do, like I get it. It's way easier than some people have got it. Like, don't get me wrong. I would not complain at all. And I love it. But I didn't realize how hard it is to talk nonstop and focus on a game like that for 5 hours a day.
Yeah, 100%. Because I suppose you're just looking at it. If you were doing it beforehand, you're not really talking all the time in the game. You're just, if you're on a headset with some of your pals, but then if you're streaming, it's different because you've got to keep the conversation. Yeah, you can't going.
Like when you're just sitting playing it, you can just like you chat here or there. But yeah, like obviously I've got the game to focus on, and I've got a full chat of people that I've got to keep like checking on and making sure I keep going. Because I feel like when you actually play, like you said, if you got friends, you'll chat. But actually, most of the time you're not speaking. You don't. You kind of just playing the game to play the game. So especially if you're playing on your own, even playing on my own, if I'm playing solos, I'm still chatting the whole way through it. So it's just it's definitely, it's not as, I want to say not as easy, but I mean, it's not as easy as I think people assume, or that I assumed. I definitely gave myself a bit of a wake-up call when I realised just how hard it was going to be to do it full time. But we'll never complain, obviously.
No, exactly. A few Warzone specific questions.
Oh, here we go.
Somebody had said Verdansk or Caldera. What's your... I know this is quite a controversial debate that rages everywhere, but I'll leave it up to you to pick a...
It's annoying because I feel like this is what I always say in my stream. I was like, stop comparing the two, because they're two different things. But if it came down to it, gun to my head, I would go for Verdansk. And it's just, I feel like there's a lot to it, because obviously there's a nostalgia there. Like that was our lockdown. Everybody loved that, no matter what it was. But obviously kicked off my streaming. Like that's like where a lot of my highest memories are on that map. So I feel like that's more of the reason why I picked that map. But I don't not like Caldera. So I liked both. And I think if I was gonna pick, I would pick Verdansk. Would I want Verdansk back? No.
Really? Would you not have it back as an option?
If they were going to have options, fair enough, I would. But would I want them to just get rid of it, bring back Verdansk, and that was it, and we're never going to have anything new again? I don't want that. I feel like a lot of people don't like change. And no one gave Caldera a chance. Like, I do understand it was completely different, but the more people played it, the more people liked it. Because that was the same as Verdansk. I hated Verdansk when I first started it. Hated the game.
Found it really complicated at the start.
I did not like it. When I first started playing the Battle Royale, I had no idea what was going on. And I was a proper COD like multiplayer like through and through. So I tried it and I'm going, this is awful. Can't do it. Went straight back to multiplayer. I had to like come back to it and try again after. And it took me ages to like it. And I just couldn't get into it. And I was trying to learn everything. And obviously the less you knew about it, the more you died.
Yeah.
So obviously your experience was worse. I'm going, it's the exact same. I was like, you can't tell me the first time you played Verdansk you loved it. Because no one did.
Not a chance. So it was a quick first game.
Yeah. And so people went from loving the game and being like knowing everything about it to a brand new map and just didn't give it a chance. And I'm going, just give it a shot. And most people that have given it a shot end up enjoying it. So
yeah, I would agree with that. But
I think that's going to be the same with Warzone 2 comes out. People are going to hate it.
Yeah, the first month will just be complaints.
It's going to be difficult for this like to bring out a new one. I'm apprehensive to say the least.
I suppose it's harder for you guys as well because you've got to adjust to the new changes live to many people.
I'm quite nervous about it, but also like it's not even like I can learn on it, and I think people obviously when they know you're learning it's all new, that's fine. But I'm actually more apprehensive of like if people don't like it and their reaction, that's how much it's gonna like how much they're going to consume the content. So if they don't like the map, they're not consuming the content of the map, which is obviously that was a massive dip from like if people didn't like Verdansk, like everybody loved Verdansk and that's all we had. So everybody only watched that content. If that's what that game was what they're watching. When we went to Caldera, the amount of people that dropped off because they didn't like Caldera anymore, obviously coming out of lockdown as well. But if so many people despise Caldera, so that obviously dropped it. So I'm going, if people don't like this new Warzone, and that's what I play, like how different is it going to be? Like that's always the thing, because that's out of my control. Like again, like that is based on how much they like the game that they're watching. So
it's a big gamble. It's a big gamble.
I'm excited for it, and I hope that it's good. But I think the only thing we do have is I feel like the new multiplayer is going to be. I think everybody's gonna like it, so there's a fallback at least.
Fingers crossed.
I hope so.
A few people had asked if you are new to the game, is there any tips that you would give people starting out? And because you say you can play it and you can spot someone right away who's maybe never done it, or they're just wandering aimlessly around the middle of the trees.
Yeah. If I was to give you any tips, I would recommend not playing on your own to start with, because solos is so much harder anyways. But if you are new to the game, like you kind of don't have a chance. So I would, if you can help it, don't play on your own. If you are gonna play on your own, I would recommend trying to get to know the map before trying to panic about how many kills you're getting or winning. Just get to know the map, because that is a massive thing that I think people don't realize streamers have an advantage of, because we play so much that we know so much about every part of that map that when you're in, even if you're not the best at shooting, you can use little bits of the map to your advantage to win over someone. So just learn the map. Like don't worry too much about trying to kill people, and just like you can with a battle royale. Unfortunately, people have kind of skewed the meaning of it, but your goal is to survive as long as possible. Land somewhere quiet, just try and learn the map. There's other modes that you can play to learn the map, and that's all I would do. Like focus on learning the map before you try and do anything else complicated.
Last but not least, what does the future hold? What does the next year look like for you?
I wish I knew. I think that like I didn't expect this last year to have held what it has. So like in the last year I've became Facebook partner, ended up on TV, like I've had articles written about me. Like if you asked me this time last year if that was happening, pass. No, it's absolutely not. So I don't know. I would like to believe that within the next year there's like I've got goals. I would like to have my own CBD brand that I'm going to sell like through gaming.
Okay.
And I would love to get more into like the presenting side if I could find opportunities. And this is where I can see it. And I'd love to grow more as like a personality than just the gaming side on Facebook. That is the goals.
Yeah.
Not sure what the next year holds though.
But then going on the year you've just had, you could smash every one of them.
Like that's like they weren't my goals though. They just happened.
That's
And
what I
I'm
mean.
going, what am I meant to do?
They've just been like add-on bonuses.
Literally, I was like, I just wanted to chill and play some games online. Like what? So we never know. I don't feel like there's much of a limit, and it's pretty much just I'm taking each day and seeing what happens. So
yeah.
Hopefully there'll be good things in the next year.
Fingers crossed. Jade, it's been brilliant. It's been so good to find out about an industry that people are probably intrigued by, but they don't know a lot about. And going in the amount of people that I've had asking for this type of interview, I think people get a lot from it that are maybe kind of young people that watch you that are gamers and think, well, I'd like to stream, I'd like to do something like that. Hopefully they'll take something away from it, and fair play to you as well, because it is a tough industry to be in, and you're obviously doing something right if you're getting all these things happening so far.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking about myself for so long.
Thank you. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.